If you've been brushing off your forgetfulness as just getting older, your brain has already started losing ground in ways most doctors never mention. You walk into a room and forget why you're there. You lose the word mid-sentence. You read the same paragraph twice and retain nothing. And you tell yourself it's normal. But here's what almost nobody tells you: the memory loss most people experience after 40 has almost nothing to do with aging itself, and almost everything to do with a single protein that your brain quietly stops producing. Once you understand what's actually happening inside your brain, you'll never think about forgetfulness the same way again. Let's start with the piece of biology that changes everything. Deep inside your brain, there is a small curved structure called the hippocampus. It looks almost exactly like a seahorse, which is actually what the word means in Latin, and it is the command center for forming and retrieving memories. Every name you remember, every story you recall, every skill you learned, passed through the hippocampus first. Here's the part that should make you stop scrolling. Research published in the journal Nature Neuroscience found that the hippocampus begins measurably shrinking after the age of 40 at a rate of roughly 1% per year. That might sound small. But over a decade, that's 10% of your brain's memory center, gone. The good news, and this is real, peer-reviewed good news, is that the hippocampus is one of the only regions in the adult brain that can actually grow new neurons. The process is called neurogenesis. And the key that unlocks it is a protein called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Think of BDNF as fertilizer for your brain. When levels are high, neurons grow, connections multiply, and memory sharpens. When levels drop, the opposite happens. After 40, BDNF production naturally begins to decline. And that decline is the real reason you're forgetting things. Now here's where it gets interesting. The biggest modern thief of BDNF isn't age. It's stress. Specifically, it's the chronic low-grade stress that most people over 40 carry around like background noise, the constant notifications, the financial pressure, the never-ending task lists. A landmark study from Rockefeller University showed that sustained stress floods the brain with cortisol, and elevated cortisol directly suppresses BDNF production. It also damages the synaptic connections in the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for working memory and focused thinking. This is why people under chronic stress don't just feel mentally foggy. They literally are mentally foggy. The circuitry is physically impaired. Reducing cortisol isn't just a wellness goal. It's a neurological necessity if you want your memory back. There's another culprit that almost nobody in your life has told you about, and it's your sleep architecture. Most people know that sleep is important for the brain. But the specific mechanism matters enormously here. During deep sleep, your brain activates something called the glymphatic system. Think of it as the brain's overnight cleaning crew. Cerebrospinal fluid flushes through the brain, clearing out metabolic waste, including toxic proteins like amyloid beta that accumulate throughout the day and interfere with neural signaling. A 2019 study from Boston University found that even one night of disrupted sleep significantly reduced glymphatic clearance. And after 40, the amount of deep slow-wave sleep most people get begins to decrease naturally. That means less cleaning, more buildup, slower signal transmission, and yes, worse memory. The fix isn't just more hours in bed. It's about protecting the quality of your deep sleep stages, which we'll touch on in a moment. Here's a third factor that researchers at the University of California, Los Angeles found particularly alarming. They studied people between the ages of 40 and 60 who self-reported normal memory and found something startling. The group that spent more than 2 hours per day on passive screen consumption, scrolling, streaming, switching between apps, showed measurably lower activity in the default mode network. The default mode network is the brain system that consolidates memories and makes long-term connections between ideas. It activates specifically when you're doing nothing, when you're staring out a window, daydreaming, letting your mind wander. The modern habit of filling every idle moment with a screen is robbing your brain of the exact downtime it needs to lock memories in. Memory consolidation is not passive. It requires mental rest. Let's talk about something that directly reverses this decline, and the research here is genuinely exciting. In a 2020 study published in Cell Reports, scientists found that exposing neurons to gamma-frequency brainwave stimulation at 40 Hz triggered a measurable increase in BDNF production. Gamma waves are the fastest brainwave frequency your brain produces naturally. They spike during moments of heightened perception, deep learning, and sharp recall. The problem is that after 40, sustained gamma activity becomes harder to access without deliberate stimulation. The researchers found that even brief, consistent gamma entrainment, using audio tones specifically calibrated to 40 Hz, could shift the brain into a more neuroplastic state, essentially making it more receptive to growth and repair. This isn't fringe science. Gamma stimulation research is being actively pursued at MIT, Stanford, and the University of California system. The findings consistently point in the same direction: stimulating gamma activity protects neurons, increases BDNF, and improves cognitive performance. There's one more piece of this puzzle that most people overlook entirely, and that's the role of social connection in memory preservation. A long-running Harvard study on adult development found that people over 40 who maintained strong, engaged social relationships showed significantly slower cognitive decline than those who were more isolated. The mechanism is neurological. Social engagement activates multiple brain regions simultaneously: language, memory, emotional processing, facial recognition, and that simultaneous activation is one of the most powerful forms of cognitive exercise that exists. It literally builds and maintains neural pathways. Loneliness, conversely, has been shown to raise cortisol, lower BDNF, and accelerate hippocampal shrinkage. Connection is not just good for your mood. It is structural maintenance for your brain. So to recap what's actually happening after 40, BDNF production declines, hippocampal volume shrinks, cortisol impairs neural connections, glymphatic clearance slows down, passive screen time disrupts memory consolidation, and social isolation compounds everything. These are not random acts of aging. They are cascading biological processes that are, to a significant degree, addressable. And this is where the research on gamma brainwave stimulation becomes practically useful. That's why I've been paying close attention to something called the brainsong. It's a 12-minute daily audio developed by neuroscientists, and it's designed to use gamma brainwave soundwave technology to activate BDNF, the exact protein we've been talking about throughout this entire video. The idea is that by listening consistently, you're giving your brain a targeted daily signal to shift into a more neuroplastic, growth-oriented state. Users report sharper thinking, improved recall, and a general sense of mental clarity after consistent use. It's backed by neuroscientists and comes with a 90-day money-back guarantee, so the risk is essentially zero if you want to try it. It's $39, which honestly is less than most people spend on supplements that have far less science behind them. If this video gave you something real to think about, and I hope it did, here are the 3 things worth holding on to. First, memory decline after 40 is largely driven by falling BDNF levels, not inevitable aging. Second, chronic stress, poor deep sleep, and passive screen time are the 3 biggest modern accelerants of that decline. Third, gamma brainwave stimulation is a legitimate, research-supported tool for reversing some of that biological drift. If you want to check out the brainsong, the link is in the description below. And if you found this useful, hit like and subscribe. We publish brain health content every week that is actually grounded in the science, not the hype. Your brain built everything you've ever done. It's worth understanding how to protect it.